Hello, children, and welcome to another episode of Geometry Concepts and Skills. I'm your host here, Mr. Kramer, and today we are going to be looking at how to prove lines to be parallel. Now, this lesson isn't really too bad at all. In fact, if you have a pretty good grasp on everything that we've kind of done this entire chapter, this really shouldn't be bad at all, again. So, let's take a look here. The main concept behind trying to prove lines to be parallel is our magical chart that we have here. And note that it's basically the exact same thing that we've been looking at for the last week and a half here. So here's the thing. I want to read that little paragraph, that little sentence there up on top. It says, to prove lines are parallel, use the chart below. The angles on the figure provided, and what I'm referring to is this dude right here, if they match the angle patterns, then they will prove those lines to be parallel. Now, before we really get a little bit more into this, I want you to take a look at this chart here. Notice what we have. We've got alternate interior angles here on the congruent sector. We've got alternate exterior corresponding, and under our angles that add up to 180 degrees, we're only looking at same side interior and same side exterior angles. Now look at this little statement that I have right below. It says, note, vertical angles nor a linear pair can prove lines to be parallel. This is different than some of the other charts that we've looked at in the past. Those have been there to kind of help us to figure out, which angles are congruent or add up to 180 degrees. In this case, we're not going to really be looking at that. Those two parts are not going to be helping us to prove that lines are parallel. And here's proof. Right there, look at this. We can clearly see here that line B will eventually run into line A. Thus, they are not parallel. But look, these are vertical angles. These vertical angles right there have no proof in the standing of whether or not A and B could be parallel to B. So with that being said, let's kind of look at some examples of what you're going to be seeing here in the near future. So here's your first example. Notice what we have here. We've got alternate interior angles right there. And if you have alternate interior angles, they're going to prove that line A here and line B, there's A and B, are parallel to each other. They're also congruent, as you know. Looking down at some more examples. Let's say that we've got corresponding angles here on A and B. This is another example that is going to prove that our lines or those two lines are parallel. However, what you see right here, this is not vertical, and these are not a linear pair. Actually, they really don't have any relationship at all. But these two types of angles are not going to prove that those two lines, meaning A and B, are parallel with each other. Now, let's finish this off here. We're almost done. What about if we've got examples with numbers and variables attached to it? And if we want to prove that they are parallel? Well, first things first, we got to see what our relationship between the two numbers or the variables are. So we have here is 125 degrees in this corner, and then in this corner here we've got 5x plus 15. Well, we know that these two angles here are alternate exterior angles. And as you can kind of go back to our chart, do alternate exterior angles prove do they prove those parallel lines to be congruent and to be proving lines to be parallel? Yeah, they sure do. So going back, once we figured out that those two lines are parallel and that they're congruent, now we can set them up based on the chart that we had. So in this case, we're going to say 125 equals 5x plus 15. All right, let's roll. So if I subtract now 15 over from 125, I'm going to end up with 110 equals 5x. And then when we divide by 5 and we move it over from 110, x gets us that magical number of 22. So to kind of summarize everything there, first check to see if the pattern that we have, are they congruent or do they add up to 180 degrees? Well, in this case, they're alternate exterior angles, so they have to be congruent. Next, from the chart, you're going to see, okay, does that alternate exterior angles, do they prove lines to be parallel? And back as we saw up into our chart, meaning, voila, it's going to prove that those lines A and B referring to be parallel. Set them equal to each other since they're congruent, and then solve for x. Alright guys, last thing here, we got this guy right here. I want you guys to make sure that you take a look at that, tell me whether or not those lines are parallel, and then to see if you can solve for x, given what our chart asks for. Are they going to be alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding, same side exterior, or same side interior? Again, make sure you have that done for tomorrow, and then we'll be ready to go. Have a great one. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.